Hello, the National Program Office is pleased to welcome you to today's webinar, Steps to Success with the SHPEP Application. My name is Jill, and it is my pleasure to be the facilitator for today's event. I would like to formally welcome all of the participants joining us today. And please note today's call is being recorded and will be available online in 3 to 5 business days. If you experience technical difficulties with the web portion of today's program, please send an email to aamc@compartners.com or send a message in the chat box. If you're listening to the program over the phone, all participant lines will be muted during this broadcast. If you need assistance at any time, please press *0 and an operator will assist you. This presentation will last up to 60 minutes and will include a question and answer opportunity at the end of the webinar. You may submit a question at any time by typing them into our chat box in the lower left corner of the screen and then just click on the send button. I would like to direct your attention to the links box on the left side of the screen where resources are located for you to view, save, or print. Simply click on the link of your choice and a separate web browser window will open, and this will not interfere with your viewing of the program. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today's program from the National Program Office. Tony Mancuso, Communications and Outreach Senior Specialist, and Stephanie Vink, SHPEP Program Specialist. I'll turn the program over to Tony to get us started.
Thank you, Joe, and good evening, everyone. For those of you on the West Coast, good afternoon. Tonight I'm joined by Stephanie Vink, and she's the SHPEP Program Specialist. I am the Communications and Outreach Senior Specialist. And tonight you will be learning about the SHPEP program, its history, the eligibility requirements, and things to think about when completing an application. So what is the Summer Help Professions Education Program? The Summer Help Professions Education Program, also known as SHPEP, is a free 6-week summer enrichment program focused on improving access to information and resources for college students interested in the health professions. The goal of the program is to strengthen academic proficiency and career development of students underrepresented in the health professions and prepare them for a successful application and matriculation to health profession schools. These students include, but are not limited to, African American, American Indian, Alaska Native, Hispanic or Latino, and those who come from communities from low socioeconomic and those who are educationally disadvantaged. So SHPEP's roots go back to 1989 when its first cohort of scholars, due to the noted declines of medical school applicants from racial and ethnic backgrounds starting in 1977, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation initiated a study in 1984 to learn strategies to change the trends. Findings contributed to the development of the minority medical education program to increase the acceptance rates of medical school applicants from racial and ethnic minority groups who were underrepresented in medicine. Over the years, MMEP's intensive academic preparation program expanded to 11 medical school campuses. The AAMC assumed the role of the National Program Office in 1993. In 2003, the program changed its name to the Summer Medical Education Program, reflecting the inclusion of students representing a range of economic, cultural, and geographic diversity. In 2006, the program expanded to include dentistry and was renamed the Summer Medical and Dental Education Program. SMDEP focused on students in the first 2 years of their college education because the experience of previous programs indicate that this is when students derive the most benefit. And in 2016, in an effort to keep a pace of the growing importance of team-based care and interprofessional collaboration, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation expanded the program to include a range of health professions and changed the program name to the Summer Health Professions Education Program. Now, here are the health professions accepted applicants can gain clinical experience in. We have medicine, dentistry, nursing, public health, physical therapy, optometry, and pharmacy. And they can gain this experience at any of our 12 program sites, which include Columbia University, University of Florida, University of California, Los Angeles, and Charles R. Drew University, Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, University of Iowa, University of Nebraska, Howard University, University of Alabama, University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, Western University of Health Sciences, University of Louisville, and the University of Washington. With that being said, why should students apply? SHPEP students will receive academic enrichment in basic sciences, a $600 stipend, and attend the program without cost, and guidance from admissions deans, health professionals, and students about how to pursue the profession that they are interested in. Students will also gain exposure for their potential career pathways and network with other students who are interested in the health professions. So, if you're able to submit an application, and, Stephanie will touch on that later on, I highly recommend that you go through the process. And talking about submitting applications, there are definitely eligibility requirements. To apply to SHPEP, you must be a college freshman or sophomore at the time of application. Please note that your academic credits cannot exceed 60. AP credits are not counted. You need to have a minimum overall college GPA of 2.5. And you need to be a U.S. citizen, a permanent resident, or an individual granted DACA status by the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. And lastly, you cannot have participated within the program. We want to make sure that we include new members, new students, so we want to make sure that it's only a one-time thing. To help diversify the health professions, there are other factors for consideration of students. Identifying with a group that is racially or ethnically underrepresented in the health professions, coming from an economically or educationally disadvantaged background, having demonstrated an interest in issues affecting underserved populations, and, of course, submitting a strong personal statement and letter of recommendation. I'm now going to turn it over to Stephanie Vink, who will go over the application in further detail.
Perfect. Thank you, Tony. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for giving us a background on the program. It's hard to believe we've been around for 30 years. Quite a bit of applicants that have participated. Before I jump in on the application requirements, I just wanted to go over a little bit the website. This is a great tool that we have, and I selected the program sites, and I really think students should look at the 12 participating program sites in further detail, and actually each program site has their own start and end date. So it's really important that the student do your research on when the program site of your choice starts and ends so that you can make your summer plans accordingly. You don't want to sign up for, apply to a school that you can't actually go to because you have some other obligation. Second, we have an awesome filter tool that can help you choose your program type. Now, Tony went over our awesome health professions that we currently have available for you to choose from, but not every site offers everything. All 12 sites offer medical and dental, but if you are interested in another health profession, you would want to go ahead and use this filter mechanism so you can figure out what site offers it so you can apply to it correctly. And then also, you want to get a deeper understanding of the stipends that are offered. Now, you do get a $600 stipend, as we mentioned before, but how it's distributed might be different on each site. So some sites give it to you all one lump sum, some give it to you in installments, so just so you have a better understanding of what happens. And of course, the sites do cover travel to get to the site. It's usually a maximum of $500. It doesn't mean that if your ticket would be more that they wouldn't pay. It's probably done on a case-by-case basis. This is, of course, something you would discuss with the site that you get selected to. But I wanted to put that out there because a lot of students don't know that we cover travel, and you may not apply to a site that's a little bit farther away when you actually can do that, and we will help you get there. So I just wanted to go over that as well before we get jumping in the mix here. So, a little bit of lag. So the application requirements. So we have interesting. There we are. Application requirements. So we have one online application that you can choose up to 3 schools on your application. So as I mentioned before, you don't have to pick the closest one. You can choose up to 3, and you're going to actually pick the health profession that you're interested in. Another awesome thing about when we added other health professions is you could be interested in more than one, correct? Like, so let's say you're interested in medicine, but you also have an interest in dentistry. You can apply to, for example, let's say Columbia as medicine, Howard as dentistry, and Florida as medicine. You can mix match the health professions. What you can't do is different health professions at the same site. So just throwing that out there, just something to think about when you're applying to these program sites. The other half of the application is your required materials. So that's a 1 letter of recommendation, an official transcript from every post-secondary institution you have attended and are currently attending. So moving along. There is no order in which to complete the application. But what I mean by that is you don't need to start your application, submit it, then turn in your transcript and letter of recommendation. If you're a sophomore, let's just go over this first part. So if you're a sophomore, you can actually turn in your transcript as is right now, which I highly recommend unless you are trying to boost your GPA up a little bit. It's just for a peace of mind, because we do get a lot of transcripts towards the deadline, and you don't want to be in the deadline. I mean, you can be in the deadline. It's just, for peace of mind, it's just better to have your stuff in. If you're a freshman, you can get your letter of recommendation in and still be working on your application. Your application is not going anywhere unless you have all 3 parts to it. So that's a submitted application, your transcript that goes with it, transcripts if you've been to multiple colleges, and then, of course, your letter of recommendation. Freshmen, you do have to wait to submit your application and your transcript in order to have it sent in. So please don't send us transcripts that you're still waiting for your fall grades. So let's go over transcripts in more detail. So you need an official transcript sent in from every post-secondary institution you've attended or have attended, or attending, excuse me. So that means if you were in high school and you did dual enrollment, regardless if those grades are on your current institution transcript, you still have to get the community college where you took it plus the current institution you are in. If you've been to several colleges, you've taken, I was like that. I went to 3 or 4 schools, so I had, you have to get all of them in. You have to list it on your application and get all official transcripts sent in. Again, as I mentioned before, freshmen, you need to wait for your fall grades. Sophomores, you can have them sent in now. Important notes. This happens every year. Don't be one of these students. Do not issue the transcript to yourself and have it sent in by you. You must have your registrar do it. Unfortunately, we don't accept the electronic transcripts. I've never had a school not been able to do this. I think it's sometimes confusing when you try to order the transcript. It wants you to do it online, but every college should be able to mail in the transcript, a hard copy, to us. It needs to come from your registrar's office. If you have an issue with the transcript form, which is sometimes, some schools don't want to put that form in, have it sent in without it. We'll still accept your transcript without the form. We'll still be able to fine you. The only suggestion I would say is make sure you've started your application. If you're going to be sending in any documents prior to submitting it, that's totally fine. Just make sure you've at least started it, filled out a few things, so when we get your transcript or letter of recommendation, we can go, oh, this is Sally, Smith. Okay, here it is. We find you easily that way. Particularly with the transcript, because if you don't have, if we're not sure it's you, i.e. connected to your AAMC ID, we can look at your date of birth and go, okay, this application matches this person. We can figure you out pretty easily, but we kind of need some other indicators there if you don't have the form. Last, we don't take updated transcripts. So if you're a sophomore and you already had your transcript in, you cannot send us updated transcripts in February with your fall grades. So this is a choice you have to make. I've never seen it be an issue with the school. If they're interested in your final grade for that semester, they'll email you or call you directly and get that offline. For this application purpose, sophomores, you can, again, turn in your current transcripts. We don't take updated. Again, freshmen, you're waiting anyways. We're going to have your updated transcript. Moving on to letters of recommendation. You only need one letter of recommendation. It can come from a pre-health advisor or a college professor within your major field of study. Now, we understand, especially for freshmen, you may not have someone you're close to in this level, and which is totally fine. You can also get a letter from a high school science teacher, maybe a math teacher, an employer you worked with from, in the health-related field. So you don't have to stick just to that mold. That's totally fine. If you're still at a loss, at this point, pick someone who can speak to your best abilities as a scholar. We understand that you're 18, 19, still very young, and you're still making your connections, so do the best you can. Just make sure you get it in. It can be either emailed or mailed, paper mail by the recommender. We definitely prefer email. You get a little, when your recommender sends an email, they get a little response saying, hey, we have it. And of course, we can look it up easier in case there's any, implications with it. It is the same deadline. It's February 5th. It needs to be time-stamped by February 5th or postmarked by February 5th. Same thing with the transcripts. I don't think I touched on that as hard as I should have. With your transcript, it needs to be postmarked by February 5th. We take the deadline pretty seriously because we have a lot of applications to get to the site, so they have enough time to review. I think just a couple notes. We will reject letters that are not signed, forms that are not signed. I didn't touch on this earlier, my apologies, but on your application, there is, on the website and application, there's a form there available for the recommender. You print it out, send it to them, or you can save it as a file and send it to them, have them fill it out on your behalf. Or you can have a letter sent in for you. If they choose to do a letter, as long as it's on official letterhead and signed, we will take it. If they do the form, we will take it. We don't need both. Sometimes people do both, which is fine, but we don't have to have both. The important thing is that it's signed. Again, if it's not using the form, on a letterhead, and then, it emailed in is probably the best way. We do have a couple additional tips for you guys. Always tell them an earlier deadline than the final one. It just gives them a boost in case they're a little late, then they didn't miss the deadline, everyone's happy. We only take one reference. We will take the first one we get. It's always good to have a backup recommender. I definitely recommend at least 2 people in mind. I think the best way to foster this is just, don't be afraid to give them a gentle nudge, remind them of your deadline, which let's just say January 20th, I don't know. Just to kind of remind them that this is important to you, and they of course want to help you do this, so I'm sure they wouldn't mind the gentle nudge. Just make sure you're on top of the deadline and that it's submitted. Let's move on to the essay. So we get a lot of questions about the essay. What are the sites looking for? So just so everybody knows, the NPO, the National Program Office, we do not actually make decisions on the application process. The 3 sites that you choose on your application do. Each site is kind of looking for, what they're looking for. But we can speak that we do have a prompt for your personal statement. It's on the website and it's also on your application when you go to fill this out. Take this essay very seriously. Write about your background, your interests, people who influenced you. What's your story? Tell your story in a dynamic way. Why do you want to do this program? I mean, that's kind of already in the prompt already, but, focus on something that maybe your application, other parts of the application, explain yourself that other parts of the application may not have touched on. And we have some other tips that we'd like to go over, which is check your grammar errors, have someone review it. You could even maybe take a few days to write it. Don't just rush through it. Make sure you include why diversity in healthcare is important. Express your authentic self is a great idea. And last, we added this in red because this is, since 2016, you've been able to do this. If you are applying to sites with different health professions, so for example, as I mentioned before, you're interested in both medicine and dentistry. Let's say you apply to one site as medicine, 2 sites as dentistry. Please make sure that you capture that in the personal statement. What's happened in the past seasons is a site will read, let's say a dentistry site is reading your application because you chose dentistry for them. They'll come back to me and say, this student obviously picked the wrong health profession because they're only talking about medicine. So make sure that if you're choosing more than one, to kind of have your personal statement reflect that. Deadlines, again, for the application, this is an Eastern Standard Eastern deadline time. That means at 11:59 p.m. East Coast time, this will shut down, 12 a.m., but you know what I mean, on February 5th. So if you're on the West Coast, please, please, please don't try to do this. You'll be 3 hours behind, so make sure you know your time zones. Same thing with the postmarks. This isn't Eastern Standard Time, but we will have the February date to take account. So if your recommender sends their recommendation in it's on like California time and it's past the Eastern time, that's fine. We're not worried about that as long as it's on February 5th. The February 5th deadline with the application, though, it will shut down. Next, we're going to move on to how do you check your application materials. Give me 1 second. So you're going to go ahead and after you submit your application, you actually do get an email once you do submit. You're going to log back into your application and you're going to see this screen. Now, special note that all application submissions are final. The only thing that you can update after you submit is your personal info, which would be like if you got married, your address changed, things like that. So everything is final, and it has you check a box, say okay, so you cannot submit lightly. It's very important when you submit because it's final. No edits can be made on your personal statement. You can't change your sites. Everything is done. So make sure when you're ready to submit, you are ready to submit. So the next step, so you log on, you see it says submitted. So that also is an indicator right there that you're missing some stuff, okay? You're going to go to View Details. Once you hit there, you're going to see a different screen where you listed your items and what you still need. So in this example, I have the 3 possible things that you would see. The first one, if we look at the reference, is not yet received. You don't want that at the end. You want it to be received, which would turn green. So that still means that we might have it, but we haven't processed it yet, but you need to do further investigation. Contact your recommender maybe, see what's going on. You can even email us like, hey, do you have it? Maybe you just haven't processed it. It does take us 10 business days at heavy time season to process, so give us some time too, but you can also double check to make sure we have it. Totally, you're welcome to do that. The second item you would see, that you could see, is received and processing. So this literally means that we have it, but it's not verified yet. It's not on your account. So this you need to watch like a hawk. And I tried to do like a star, but my skills are not that great. It looks like fire, which is still good because it's hot. You want to watch it. You want to make sure that baby changed to green. Once it's received and verified, you can finally relax. That means we have it. It's official. Everything is good to go. You won't have a completed application until everything that you need to get in is turned green and it's received and verified. Once you get a received and processing, you will receive an email from us. And it explains what I just said in detail a minute ago. And again, do not let that go. You need to keep checking every day. Well, not every day, but up until if 10 business days and you still don't see a change, contact us immediately. This could mean that maybe it was saved wrong, maybe we lost it. I don't want to say that, but you know what I mean. Like something could have happened, and you need us to double check the situation here, so that it could be completed. Once everything is completed, you get a nice fluffy email that says you're done, it's complete, and you should be happy, jumping up in joy, because you are ready to go until March 15th when you log in to check your results. This is just what I explained a minute ago with the status of your application, what it means. The only one I didn't touch on is unofficial. Now, you would only get an unofficial email if it doesn't meet our standards that we need you to meet. And this could mean that you forward your transcripts in, meaning like you had it issued to you, even though you didn't touch the envelope. Doesn't matter if it says issue to Sally Smith and we get it, we're going to have to turn it back. And so what we'll do is we'll mark it received and processing, but immediately you'll get a sad email saying it's unofficial. Same thing with the recommendation. If it isn't signed, we'll mark it received and processing, but then boom, you'll get an email that says it's unofficial and what you need to do. So that is another status you could see up there other than the 3 above it. Another note is that you can only view your status of this once you submit your application. So until you submit your application, you can call us or email us and we can check on your materials then. You would get an email saying received and processing. So, but you know, if you want to check on it, just go ahead and give us a call or email. But once you submit, you can see live action right there. We're going to take a look at a completed application. What's my slide? There we go. So you log in. As you notice, it doesn't say submitted anymore. It says completed on the right-hand corner up there. It says congratulations, it's completed. Everything's happy. We're all happy. We're going to click on view details. So then it will take you on the screen previously. But as you can see, it's going to be green, green, green. Green means go. Everything's happy. And then you're also going to see a little thing in yellow with your 3 sides saying in review. This is a very exciting time. It's not going to change from in review to a result until March 15th. So let's say it's March 10th, you log in, everything's good to go, you're excited, set your alarm for March 15th, go ahead and log back in at that time and you will see your results. The results you would see, it should be the second box right there. It will be either accepted, not accepted, or waitlisted. Oops. Okay. So as I mentioned a second ago, you'll see on March 15th you log in. If you have an acceptance, meaning you were accepted, maybe you were accepted to one site, waitlisted for one, and not accepted to another, be sure to confirm that acceptance. It's not going to change within the 2 business days that we give you to accept it. So on March 15th falls on a Sunday this year, so you actually get a little bit extra time. But by the end of March 17th, if you haven't, so you get Monday, March 16th, Tuesday, March 17th, to confirm your results. If you do not confirm, you will be withdrawn. You don't want that to happen, especially if you're waiting on a wait list. The wait list is not going to change before March 18th. So I just wanted to clear that up because I know that can be a little confusing for students every year. So be sure to accept anything in those 2 business days. If you're waitlisted to something, you will have to check every day. It will be a 24-hour, after the 2 business days, you start checking consistently for every 24 hours. And if you don't accept within those 24 hours, you will get pulled from the program. Some sites do email you to let you know your status has changed, but they're not required to, so you definitely want to check every day. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and answer some questions that we have coming in. Tony, how are we doing?
We're doing pretty good. I have a bunch of questions here that students have been asking. I'm just going to jump to the first one. Could you go over the transcript requirements one more time just to make sure that students are getting it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So transcript requirements. As mentioned, you need to list every post-secondary institution you attended. We don't accept high school transcripts, so don't worry about high school. The difference that some people get a little confused on is when I was in high school, I was dually enrolled into a community college. Yes, we need those. So make sure you list, because that would be considered a post-secondary institution. So you're going to list the community college that you went to, and then also your current institution if it's different, your current institution. Maybe it's a university or something like that. That's fine. And you're going to be required to get transcripts from both colleges, regardless if it's on your current transcript and has transferred over. So basically, one more time, you're going to list every college or university you attended and get transcripts sent in by your registrar's office, of course, so that you can satisfy that requirement. We do not accept international transcripts. It's post-secondary Canadian, U.S. schools, and U.S. schools. And then further, just to reiterate the unofficial part of it, make sure that it comes from your registrar's office and not touched by you. So a lot of students issue to themselves. They don't open up the package or anything, but then they like to put the little request form in there and send it to us. Don't do that. You will get them unofficial, and then you waste, I don't know, like $5 or $7, right? So just make sure your registrar office does that. And also, an extra tip, remember that registrar office has their own processing time. So if you wait to the February 5th deadline to order it, unless you get it overnighted, it most likely won't be postmarked in time for the deadline. So be aware of how long it takes for your school to print transcripts, to mail them out, just so you have that in mind. Okay?
Perfect. So how would I see if transcripts and letters are received? I know we went over that screenshot really quickly, but are there certain statuses or things like that I need to be wary of?
I can bring it back up. So the question was, how can I see it was received? You can't see this unless you've actually submitted your application. So if you, for example, are still working on your application, but you want to check on your recommendation, you would have to call or email us, and you can do it that way. Once you submit your application, you can go in and review details, and then it will show you this screen. And you can have technically 4 of these possible things. If it's unofficial, you'll see that as well. I mean, the good thing is when we mark it received in processing, you get an email. So you'll kind of know that we have it. If it's been 10 business days and it still hasn't turned green to received and verified, something is wrong. So make sure you contact us.
Perfect. How many applicants does each site accept?
Good question. It is 80 per site. That's on our website. I can say it. It's 80 per site. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Have a good one for you right now. So, we had one student who was homeschooled, and in the application, they're saying that they are not able to quite enter that information within the application.
For high school?
For high school, correct. How would they go about listing that information?
They can put, I believe it's school not listed or college not found. There's a section in there. I can't remember off the top of my head. If we can take their information and I can email them personally that answer. Sure. But in the application, it does have a spot where you could put school not found. It's either college not found. Well, this is high school, so it would be, I think it's high school not found. It's one of those options, but you can definitely manually put it in.
Okay. Do program sites accept DACA students?
Yes. A special thing to note, because we did talk about the eligibility requirements, you have to hold one of those requirements at the time of the application. So unfortunately, we have in the past had students that are in the process of getting these certain statuses, permanent residency, DACA, and unfortunately they didn't have it at the time the program started. So we require, before you hit submit, you need to have this status in hand before that, just so we don't, if, unfortunately, you're still waiting and then, you can't participate in the program. We just don't want anything like that to happen. So it needs to be literally at the time of the application by the deadline, February 5th. But yes, DACA status, permanent residency, and U.S. citizens.
Do we accept transcripts via email?
No. Unfortunately, I know it's archaic. We don't at this time. It's definitely on my wish list in the future, but we currently can only take them mailed in. From your school's registrar, of course.
So for a student who's a freshman, can they list accomplishments from high school on their application?
It is supposed to be post-secondary, so it's supposed to be, what you've done in college. We understand that you're still new, so that's up to you. It's your discretion. I'm sure if you can explain why you're listing it, and it gives you like a detailed part, so that's fine.
Okay. How much weight does GPA hold in the selection process?
So once again, the NPO doesn't, we don't make any decisions on your application. This is entirely up to the program site's discretion. What I would say, though, is on our eligibility requirements, we're pretty stern on all of them except for the GPA. If you have a little bit lower than the GPA, I would still suggest you apply. What you're going to need to do is you're going to have to put your heart and soul into the personal statement. Explain why this program is for you. And we understand that students, it's tough, especially at the beginning, the first season, the first semester in college. So if you're a little bit lower in the GPA, I still encourage you to apply. And then in terms of like overall weight, that's just dependent on the site. They're going to pick people on how they seem fit for their particular program.
Are students allowed to leave the program site?
Typically, no. The program is very, very strenuous. It's heavily academic. There is job shadowing and hands-on. It's not that, but it's a lot of academic portions to it, and even missing a day could be detrimental. So you would have to talk to the program site and work out anything like that, but most likely you're not going to be able to leave.
For a student who's exceeded the 60-hour credit expectation, are there any exceptions that can be made?
That depends on how many credits you're over. What I suggest doing, if you feel like you're like on the cusp, especially if you have like 65, 62, we have to cut the line somewhere, and that typically is a freshman, sophomore status. We understand people do jumpstart programs and things like that. For your situation alone, I would email the 3 program sites that you're interested in applying to and see what their take is, because they're the ones actually making the decision. So if you're a few over, or maybe, you have a different situation, clear it. I would say talk to them first before applying, or if you feel like you don't want to waste your time applying, But the program is particularly for freshmen and sophomores, and 60 credits or less.
Do you think it's possible to take an online class while attending the program?
Well, anything's possible, but I wouldn't suggest it. Again, you can contact the program site and ask them, have they had students do it before? But this is a very intense program, guys. You're going to be busy at least 8 to 10 hours a day. You have weekend stuff. They organize events for you, things like that. You're with a cohort of students for 6 weeks. So if you do end up taking an online class, just be aware that it's going to be rough. It's a very, very busy time.
Okay.
For the typical.
So, what does a typical day look like in the program, Stephanie?
That actually, if you go to the program site page where I showed you, they have some sites that have daily schedules for you to look at. The day-to-day could change, depends on the program site. You will have, so also, The program is amazing no matter where you go, and it generally will have the same core concept or core aspects to it. The schedule, though, could change. And we're actually going to do another webinar with this question in mind, where we will go over this in further details with the program site. So stay tuned for more information on that. But until then, go ahead and check out the program site page, and then click on program site, and they should have an example schedule for you to look at.
What is the email address that recommenders can send reference letters to?
It's on the form that's available on our website and your application under the View Forms, but it's shpepletters@aamc.org. And again, that's shpepletters with an S at aamc.com. But I would definitely give them the form, at least the first page of it, because it has exactly what they need to do, where they need to send it.
And as far as providing the mailing address for our school, I'm pretty sure that may be on that transcript form as well.
It's on the form as well. I don't want to give that over on the thing. It's also on our website. So where you need to send one official copy of every transcript to the National Program Office. Do not send your transcripts to the program sites. Send it to the program office, and that's available on the form, which is, again, on your application. If you look under View Forms, which I can show you one page here. If you look at Documents, I just switched the slide back. The right-hand bottom corner, it says View Forms. You have a transcript form, a recommendation form, and then, of course, a check sheet for you to know what to do. And also, this address is on our website.
Perfect. Does the applicant have to be a member of an underrepresented minority?
We encourage everyone to apply. There's strong factors that consider your acceptance, but this is also economically as well. Rural areas, take into account your community and why you would be beneficial to participate in this program and what you want to bring back to your community. So, not necessarily. I think that's rounding off.
Let's see what else we have there.
So I see a question here. Can freshmen cannot send updated transcript of winter 2020? No. If it's one transcript per school for that semester. So, if anything that's current, what they need is a semester, though. So if you're a freshman and you're in fall courses right now, and then let's say you're going to get your grade in December 15th, I don't know, random number. And then you start January 1, and your class is over by February 1. If you list it on your application, as long as it's at the same school, you won't need it. But it's at a different school, we'll need a transcript in progress for that. But we don't need an updated one if it's not going to be ready by the application time or the deadline time, if that makes any sense. I know that was a little.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
How are the living arrangements? Do students live in dorms during the program, or
they do? Every site offers housing. I mean, it's usually required that you live on campus. We cover room and board. You also, like we mentioned, you get a $600 stipend. And then last, of course, we cover the travel to get to the site and to get back home.
So my school uses a third-party vendor in order to send transcripts, like, National Clearinghouse, things like that. Will those be accepted here?
That is totally 100% correct. That's fine. We take those. What we mean by third-party is, let's say your mom, it was issued to your mom and she sent it in for you. That's what more like we mean. We understand that schools use a vendor to print out their stuff, which is usually easier, too, because then you don't have to go down to the thing, order it, So Student Clearinghouse, as long as it's a professional transcript vendor, that's fine. We totally take those.
How important are the extracurricular activities in the admission decision? I understand that we don't make the decisions here, but maybe you can.
Well, I think, again, we don't review applications, but I wouldn't worry too much. But they want to see they want to see what you're doing. You know, they want to see what kind of student you are. What are you doing on your free time? So again, there's really no way to answer that because like it's dependent on the site on what they're looking for.
Perfect.
Rounding up. I saw a question, do you have to live in the dorms? Usually yes. I know in situations past, some sites have given some exceptions to that. But overall statement, yes, you do have to live in the dorm. If you have a particular issue with that or, you know, concern, you would want to talk to the program site directly and see if anything can be worked out. But most likely, yes, you would live in the dorm.
Do you have to have a declared major to submit an application?
Not at all. No, especially for freshmen. I mean, you're brand new. You don't know what you want to do. That's totally fine. That's another amazing reason why to do the program. I mean, some people know that they want to help people, know that they want to be in the health professions, but they're still kind of questioning which one, you know, maybe medicine, maybe dentistry. And that's what's awesome about the program is this is very interprofessional. So you're going to get exposure to multiple health professions, even if you didn't select it. That's another great way to look at the program is like if you're interested in, let's say you're like, well, I'm pretty sure I want to be a doctor, but I'm actually kind of interested in optometry. You could apply to the sites as medicine and you'll still get exposure to the sites that offer optometry. So like right now I can think of two on the top of my head. It's University of Alabama and then of course Western University. So those would be two sites that you would definitely want to apply to because they, even if you don't select it as a track, you'll still get exposure to it. And it's going to be great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
If I need assistance, what is the number that I can call in order to get help with my application?
It's our 1-800 number. I had it on here in one of your slides. I don't know it by heart. Let me pull it up. Let's see here. Or how about this? If you go to our webpage under Contact Us, our number is 1-866-587-6337. And again, if you need it, it's 1-866-587-6337. Toll-free number. It's under Contact Us on the website, and it also has our email address and our mailing address for your transcripts. It's all laid right there. We have excellent business hours. We're open Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 9 a.m., 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and then Wednesday from 9 a.m., 3 p.m. Eastern Time.
Perfect.
I think someone asked, how do we submit the transcript matching form with the sealed envelope? Well, ideally, you would give the form to your registrar's office, and they would submit it with it. Like I mentioned before, if you're having, if it seems like it's a problem, have your transcript sent in without it. We'll be able to find you. What I do ask though from applicants is, please have, you know, your basic indicators filled out, name, date of birth. You don't have to necessarily have the college filled out, but it's really helpful for us if you do, because then it's just so much. You know how when you took the courses and everything, and then we kind of have to guess it off your transcript, so it's just easier if you have that part filled out already for us. If you've already submitted your application and you're listening to the webinar and going, oh no, I didn't submit my community college transcripts, go ahead and submit them. That's fine. We can add that in for you. So don't worry about that. Just get them in.
Perfect.
I think we're clearing
Getting on some
up. Do you need insurance? I just saw this out of the corner over here. Most sites typically require you to have insurance. Now, some sites, I believe, cover it if you don't. So what you're going to do is look at each program site and what they actually have a section on insurance that you can read and contact them with any questions or concerns that you have. Let's see. Taking a look. Any last questions?
For letters of evaluation, do I need to list my recommender before providing them the form?
Not necessarily. That's very helpful for us so that we could just boom, boom, match it to you. But what happens, though, especially if you do the application quite early and you submitted it and maybe you have a change of recommender, don't worry about that. Once we get your letter, we'll be able to change the recommender just fine without it. And if your letter arrives before you have that section filled out, we can add it in for you. It's just kind of helpful if they have the form because, like, that's common questions that we ask you when you fill out the recommender.
Perfect. And if they want to find out more information about each specific program site, they can visit shpep.org, correct?
Yep. Under program sites, each site has its own page. Discuss like what they, the location, more information about each site. So. Oh yeah, I see a question here. How long is a typical day? Again, that's going to vary. It's going to vary. Some sites, again, we'll go over this in further detail in our next webinar, A Day in the Life of the Scholar. But some sites have like rotations at night, so you might start at 8 a.m., maybe have a little bit of break, and then come back later and do a rotation. So it really just depends on what happens on each program site will be a little bit differently. But they're going to be a long day. That's why it's not recommended really to take any online courses at the same time because you're going to have a pretty strenuous summer.
Perfect. Can students mail the letter of recommendation for their letter writer?
We don't typically, we get quite a few letters, so we're not going to make sure that it comes from this person, but it's just better if the recommender does it. It's just more authentic. It's because it's about them and, who they're speaking about. So we prefer it to come from the recommender.
Can sophomores wait to send transcripts once fall semester grades are finalized?
That's totally up to sophomores to do. I just will say proceed with caution. First off, let me back up. The sites are supposed to review every single application. They're supposed to, this is not a rolling admission program. However, if you wait to the deadline or when you get closer, things happen. So we just stress you can have it sent in now because it's just for peace of mind that you can really enjoy your winter break and not be worried about your transcript arriving and things like that. So that's at your discretion. However, just remember we only take one transcript from each school. So if you want to send it in now as is, that's fine. If you want to wait till your grades are posted for the fall, that's fine too. It's not going to hurt you though unless, like I said, you want to boost your GPA up because they are more than able to take your last semester grades as, a point. Now, like I mentioned before, a site, and they've done this in the past, sometimes they want to know what you got in that chem class. So they'll email you and, hey, can I have an unofficial transcript? So, that has happened before, too. So if they're really worried about it, then they'll definitely email you or talk to you from that point.
So where can students find the transcript matching form and the letter form?
We just showed you that in the previous couple slides ago, but it's once you log into your application, the landing page, there's a form document section, and it says view forms. So we have the letter of recommendation one right there, and we also have the transcript matching form. On top of that, if you go to our website under how to apply, application requirements, if you scroll down, it shows, it takes you to two different pages, the transcript requirements and then the recommendations. If you click on that, it takes you to the whole transcript page and the application material page where you can find the forms as well.
Okay.
Let's see, I see, am I requesting a transcript? Oh.
Could students earn credit, potentially?
I think there are a few that offer credit. What you need to do, again, is just look at all 12 program sites. There is a section where it says, do you gain credit from this site? So it's dependent on the site. Just check through each site for that.
Perfect.
see. We'll filter out maybe one more question, maybe two, depending. I see someone asked about the program sites. Where you can find it is if you go to shpep.org, we have a dashboard on top, and there's a section called Program Sites, and you click that, and you will see all 12 listed along with the filters on the right-hand side.
Is it possible for me to be accepted to multiple sites?
Yes, great question. Yes, you can choose up to 3 on your application. We highly recommend that you do that. So on decision day, you have the ability to get accepted to all 3, best case scenario, and you choose where you get to go. So definitely yes. And that's why I mentioned when on decision day, if you're accepted to 1 and waitlisted 2, you would need to confirm that acceptance or you will be withdrawn.
Okay.
All right.
I have one more question. So as far as no updated transcripts, could you let us know what that means again?
Sure. So this really applies for sophomores. Freshmen, you have to wait till your fall grades are posted. There was a weird one about the winter class, but you don't have to send that in as long as they have your fall grades to go. They need grades. They can't just have 1 grade because for example, we had someone that did a summer course early as a freshman and they only had 1 grade. I'm like, we need more grades. So you need at least a full semester's grades for the sites to review. So what we mean by updated transcripts, so again, this is to sophomores. For example, I've had plenty of sophomores submit their transcripts in already for this semester. That's final now. They cannot send me another updated transcript in January when their fall grades are posted. So that's what that means. We take 1 copy of it, or 1 official copy. I don't want to say 1 copy, but 1 copy.
Perfect.
And like I mentioned before, if a site is really interested in knowing maybe a class that grade, they'll contact you directly and work that out. I think that's about it. Do you see any last varying questions?
I'm going through right now.
I see something about religious holidays or observances. We definitely take that into account. That's something you would clear with the program site. So we know Ramadan's going on a lot in the summer, of course. Definitely, we want to know what's any accommodations we need to make. But that is something you would discuss with the program site because you'll be living on their campus. But of course, yes. Perfect.
And I think that's it for tonight.
All right.
Oh
yeah. And sorry, you just reminded me. If you haven't already, follow us. Yes.
Definitely. Please feel free to follow us. On our various social media channels. We're definitely here to assist you through there. If you have any questions at all about the application or anything like that, feel free to email shpep@aamc.org for assistance. Stephanie went over the hours. Typically responses to those emails are within 1 business day. And outside of that, I think that is it for tonight. We thank you for attending the webinar, and we hope that you were able to learn a lot about the application process.
Thank you. Good luck.
And with that, we will go ahead and conclude today's program. We ask that you please give us your feedback on today's presentation by filling out the webinar evaluation link that will pop up on your screen shortly. You can also locate it in the links box on the left side of your screen. This session has been recorded and will be available within 3 to 5 business days. You may access the recorded archive by using the same login information you used for today's live webinar. On behalf of the National Program Office, thank you to our speakers and, of course, all of today's participants. Have a good afternoon. You may now disconnect.